Thanks for being here. You could be anywhere and you chose to be here. This is Lily, and this is Affirming Self. Guys, I am so excited today. You are in for a huge treat. I have invited one of the most lovely people in my life on here to this podcast. Yuly is an artist, and she has been a friend of mine for 19 years. Yes, I did say that. 19 years.
Yep.
You can't see me, but my eyes are bugged out of my head because this is just so wild when I think about all the time that's
Mhm.
passed and the seasons. And it's an honor to have you here with us. So I'd love for you to share with us just who you are, what you're about, and whatever you feel led to share. And we can go from there and jump into the topic.
Yeah, sure. So I'm happy to be here. I'm Megan. I'm known to Lily again since like high school, which dating ourselves 19 years ago. And yeah, so I've kind of been doing a lot of different things since I've known Lily. Mostly recently, I've kind of jumped into art. I specialize in soft pastel paintings, and I also love to make handmade soaps. So I'm launching a shop soon, and it's been really fun to just watch Lily with her podcast and her endeavors. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for saying yes and joining us here at the Affirming Self podcast. And I know that the listeners are excited for this one because we're covering some aspects of what we have in the last season, and yet we're going deeper. And it's such a gift to
Mhm.
have you being here. So thank you again for being here. Yeah. So I guess one of the things, like we've mentioned already twice now, which is pretty cool, is that we've known each other for 19 years. So how
Mhm.
did we actually meet? Do you even remember?
No, I mean, when we were kind of talking about this, our friendship just kind of feels like one of those things where, like, when I think back, I've just like you've always been part of my life in a way.
Oh, I'm getting all verklempt over here.
But yeah, like I don't have like a specific memory of like, oh, that's when I met Lily. That I don't know. When I think back to those years, like, and I definitely think it was high school, but I don't know like the specifics. Maybe freshman year or something like that.
I feel like it was, and there's a part of me that wants to dance around these 2 sort of memories that I have personally, one of which is I think we happened to be sitting next to each other in mixed chorus, I guess is what it was
Yeah,
called,
yeah, mhm.
and I think you actually left me for art.
I don't specifically remember. I remember just not feeling the vibe of that class, and and I think there was yeah, there was some weird, like, scheduling thing I think I had to work through, but I don't remember because I did a lot of different art and stuff. I in high school, I did photography, I did, like, cooking and did the whole culinary thing for a while too. So yeah, I've always been doing different things.
That's fantastic, and I love how you were so in a place of authenticity and just discovery at that age, and I love how you mentioned, like, the culinary thing, like, that's so fitting, especially when we get into things a little deeper, and, one of the things that I'm present to is just, like, you were so just like, "Let's try everything," and I
Mhm.
think that's what is really unique and special about you because the other, memory I have was, I think, later in the school year, it might have been during 2nd semester, we had a group of friends that we particularly were drawn to. It's not that we were committed to just that group, and it was definitely a space where we were just connected with those particular people. and love it how you described the friendship and how it kind of came about. Like it was just kind of there. I've heard it said many times that those are friends that you keep. They just kind of appear. And hopefully
Mhm.
everybody has at least one person that they can think of in that way and be like, that person was there. And I feel the feeling is really mutual for me personally, because I think back to just all the different things that we've walked through
Mhm.
separately and together as friends. And I look back and I'm like, wow, this is one of those solid friends that's not conditional. Like, I feel as we've moved through the different spaces of life, we've stood the test of time because even if
Mhm.
we haven't talked for a year and a half or 2 or 3, we come back. It's like a full circle and it's as if we never left.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, like you said, like, the unconditional part, the fact that maybe it's been a year or 6 months or whatever since we have last talked, there's no, like, ill will towards that, Like, there's no, like, "Oh, like, does she hate me because I haven't talked to her in a while or she hasn't reached out to me?" There's no, like, it's just when we connect, and it's all good. We both recognize that, like, we've both got a lot going on, and when we connect, it's great, and whenever that happens, it happens, and it's good. Yeah, I feel like both of us have always been, like, pretty authentic with each other, and, like, I remember when we kinda went our separate ways and, like, went off to college, that, like, we still, like, connected, and we used to, like, talk via Facebook Messenger and all that stuff.
So we talked about a little bit about the authenticity and the trust of relationships, right? And so I'm wondering, like, do we understand what authentic self means? Like, what is your authentic self?
I think that's a tough one. I think, like, your authentic self is, like, just who you feel like. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it kind of it's almost like the person inside that you feel like you don't have to, like, put on the mask, right? Like, you don't feel like you have to, like, "Oh, I have to, like, be a certain way to please this person," or, "I don't have to, like, try to impress this person by looking or acting a certain way. I can just be me." And that's really a freeing kind of feeling. And I think that, at least for me, I know that I'm pretty good at cluing in to when people are being authentic and when they're not. And think generally a lot of people can. Because I think we could kind of get a sense of, like, oh, this person's being real, or oh, this person's not being real. And it's a very kind of intuitive thing that I think we all kind of feel in our heart, like, oh, this is a genuine feeling, like, this is genuine energy I'm getting from this person. And
Mm.
then, we feel it. Maybe if someone's not being as genuine, we can kind of pick up on that.
Wow. And tell our listeners what that's like. How would we know that if we don't know?
It's almost kind of like, I don't know, this might be a bad example, but I'm gonna go with it. It's kinda like when you're, like, maybe you're trying to, like, buy a car or something, and you're talking to that, like, car salesman type, and they're trying to sell you on this thing, and it's probably not, like, the best car for you, but they wanna, sell it to you, so they're really pushing hard, when you're in that situation, you can feel that it's not authentic, right? Like, this person just wants me to do this thing, but they don't really care about me per se, you know? When you feel a genuine connection to someone, like, it's just a different energy. It feels lighter, it feels freer, it feels like, wow, there's a connection here.
Yeah, I really like what you said with the example about the carsman, car salesman. There's a
Mhm.
disconnect. It's almost like they're talking at you. It's not grounded. Do people even understand themselves? Are they self-aware?
I think it depends on the person, because I've definitely met people who are not self-aware. And I've definitely have met a lot more people who are aware. And I think it depends on the person and how much they care about showing up in those situations when they're with other people. Like, I feel like I've definitely met people, like, at work who are not very self-aware, who just it doesn't seem like they listen. But then I have so many people like you and other people in my life that do show up, that do care, that are authentic. For me, what I've noticed is that there's some people who are very self-aware, they're in it, they show up to every situation fully themselves. And then you have a group of people who they don't do that, and it's not like a good or bad thing. There's just different types of people. And I've noticed the people who maybe aren't super self-aware, it's kind of more of a selective thing where maybe in that situation they don't care as much, or they're not invested in that relationship, so they're not gonna show up as themselves. I think it depends on the person.
When we were preparing for this podcast, you shared with me about an experience that you had encountered regarding friendship, finding like your tribe, um, confidence support. Really, I guess what I'm saying is that we had a pretty long discussion regarding something that happened where you were faced with inauthenticity in relationship, really relationships, but
Mhm.
particularly with one person. And tell us about that experience, if you
Yeah,
would. Yeah.
yeah. So this was a long time ago, back in, like, high school. It was senior year, and I was in the, culinary program, so I did, like, culinary competitions and all this stuff, and back then, I had kinda this solid group of friends that I had known since, like, oh gosh, like, maybe elementary school at that point. Like, we'd all just kind of, like, gone through school together. And, yeah, so we one of my closest friends from that group, we were in the culinary, like, competitions and stuff together, and we had the opportunity to go, like, to the state competition, which was a pretty big deal. And I remember just, like, we were creating this concept for a restaurant and getting ready to, like, present and stuff, and we had traveled there the night before. And there was kind of this group of people that were also part of that group, or that, competition group, that were maybe, I guess you would consider, like, maybe the more popular kids, or that kinda group, and, like, I wasn't really into that. I didn't really go because they all went to, like, a we were in a hotel, and they all went into, like, one room to, like, party and whatever, because that's what you do in high school. And, it wasn't really my vibe, not my scene, so I just stayed in my room. And, um, I'm trying to think back, it's been so long. But, so a little bit later in the evening, um, the my friend and some of the other people that we were in the competition with, like, come back to my room and were kinda, like, telling me what happened. And at that time, my close friend that was part of that friend group that I had, she was dating this guy, and he was part of our, like, culinary, like, competition group.
Mhm.
And he kinda made me uncomfortable. We had some situations where it was just kinda awkward and uncomfortable, so I didn't really care for him that much. And she was telling me that he was kind of making her uncomfortable, trying to get her to do stuff she wasn't really comfortable doing. And we were all kind of like, maybe you should not be around him anymore because that's not cool and stuff. So,
Yeah.
um so the next day we compete, it goes well. I think we ended up getting like second place or something.
Woot woot. Go
Yeah.
team.
And but that whole leading up to winning, second place, there was just a lot of this awkwardness because I guess, like, after my friend had left that hotel room with her boyfriend, he had tried to, like, come on to another girl. That was
Whoa, really?
Mhm.
Wow.
And so and other people kinda, like, saw and witnessed it, and it was, like, a whole thing, and I just didn't really wanna, like it wasn't that I didn't wanna hang out with her, but she was so, like, clingy to him that and I was just like, "I don't really wanna be around him, I don't wanna be around this." So I was hanging out with other people, um, that were part of our competition group, and she didn't really like that I was hanging out with these people because these were people that she really wanted to fit in with at the time.
Mm.
But I think that
Acceptance, right?
Yeah, mhm. And I think that I remember her being really upset with me because I don't think she understood that, like, it wasn't that I didn't like her, it was more that, like, I didn't wanna be around her boyfriend because I didn't like him. And nobody else in that group really liked him either. And so we were all just kinda hanging out together, and we were kind of excluding no, we weren't trying to exclude her, but we were trying to exclude him, but because she wouldn't, like, leave him,
Mm.
that was the issue.
Mm. That's
And I
really
think
interesting.
Yeah, and I think that she kinda took it, like, after reflecting back on it, I think she took it as, like, me, like, picking this other group of people over her, which that wasn't the case at all.
Right,
And
and what it sounds like from I know we're still kind of in the story,
No, go for it.
um, what I'm present to from what you're sharing is it sounds like when you began in this relationship, there was shared values, and
Mhm.
there was a clear connection and camaraderie and trust that was established and proven up until that point had stood the test of time, and you were offering support and other people in the group were offering support as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, like, we wanted her to leave that guy. Like, I remember them telling me, like, "Get her to leave him," and I was like, "I don't think it's gonna be that easy," because she was so attached to him, you know?
Everyone in the space was attempting to minimize the damage and separating themselves as well as trying to encourage her to separate herself from him.
Yeah, no, she took it as, like, me, like, almost betraying her in a way because I wasn't taking her side of things because I didn't like that guy. Nobody did.
Right? It sounds like she felt as if you were rejecting her as a human being and not acknowledging you were looking out for her and her best interest.
Yeah. Yeah, and then kinda after that, she really, after the competition, we won and everything, and we get back to, like, our normal routine, and yeah, it was different because I think she was still really hurt by what happened, and I think she did end up breaking up with that guy shortly afterward.
Mm,
But what was the most hurtful, and I remember this, was her just kinda, like, trash talking me, I guess you could say, to, like, the rest of our friend group that I lost them as friends as well. Like, they
Wow.
didn't like, none of them, like, were willing to, like, hear my side of things. They just immediately took her side of what happened. That in that situation, that was the most hurtful for me at that
Wow.
Yeah, because I felt like because those were really the only people in high school, you kinda live and die by your friends. Like, your friends at that age are, like, everything. And then when
Oh,
you kinda
absolutely.
have them Yeah, and then when you kinda have them all leave or, like, not like you, it's pretty devastating at that age. You just kind of feel really alone, so I kinda had this, like, period of time because it was kinda near the end of high school. So kinda the end of high school, going into college, I kinda felt like I didn't really have anyone. I mean, I still had you. I still had
Mhm.
a couple people, but it was
Right.
just kind of this jarring situation of like, oh, these were people that I had, like, gone through school with since, like, elementary school because we lived in the same neighborhood and everything, and now it's just like, poof, gone.
Wow. That's really powerful in the sense of the depth of the hurt because you got to really take the time and to acknowledge the loss and also realize there's this new beginning because of something so important and traumatic to you at the time.
Mhm.
And working with high school students myself in the past, I've seen variations of part of this of what you're talking about with the depth of loss of having the the betrayal, the shift that occurred. And
Mhm.
it's interesting, I believe it's Simon Sinek. I could be incorrect. And I believe he talks about how the 5 people you spend the most time with are the ones that you're most like. And
Mhm.
it's fascinating to me as I have been listening to you, the profound shift that occurred with everything that was happening with the uncomfortable behavior and feeling unsafe. You didn't use that word, but that was present for me that there was a feeling of unsafety.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah.
then there's a there's this sense of camaraderie, this agreement of, oh yeah, like this person is not what we want for her and all of that stuff. Further things to occur on the trip and then to have the table turn. That's wild to me.
Mhm.
So I wonder, thank you so much also too for sharing that story. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that story
Oh,
because I
yeah.
think
Yeah, I mean, for a while, it was pretty painful, and it kinda led to, like I almost wanna say it kinda led to my whole, like, spiritual awakening where I got into all this other things, but we can go down that road another time, but yeah, like, I really did a lot of reflection that summer after everything happened because it was senior year, like, right before going off to college, and I really kinda learned a lot about myself that summer and kind of realized, who's a true friend and who's not.
right. That's really good. So, what was that process like for you? That discovery of what is a friend and what is not a friend in terms of maybe behaviors or attributes? What makes a friend? I'm also really trying to hold myself back because I have like another question there. I'm like, no, just slow down and wait. It's okay.
I think for me yeah. I think for me that summer, it was a lot of just, I didn't really have a ton of friends, so I spent a lot of time alone, just kind of with myself and kind of reflecting on the whole situation. And I was also kind of like busying myself. I had a job that summer. I was doing other things, but I think the big thing for me was just kind of I had this realization that I don't know how to say it, but like people kind of come into your life and they stay as long as they're meant to stay, if that makes sense.
People come into your life and they stay as long as they're meant to stay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow. I like that. There's like a freedom in that when you shared that because I find that in my own life, even as a 33-year-old, there's things that I've encountered lately as well where I look at a situation and I could get angry or frustrated, and there's no reason to because it's really this acceptance of, in some respects, if they really wanted to, they would. And I don't just mean like in terms of people choosing to connect with you, it's the way in which they choose to do that. So with your example with the time since elementary school and then moving through those other spaces and then having this intensity of a having this opportunity to really grow and to stop and look at yourself and coming to that realization, I feel like that's a huge deal. And there's 2 questions. I'll present both of them and you can take your time in answering them.
Right.
But they're related to what you were just saying with they're meant to be there as long as they're meant to be there.
Mhm.
And what were the red flags in that situation? And when did you fully acknowledge within yourself the depth of the red flags in that relationship?
I think the red flags kinda started when she was kind of choosing that guy over me, essentially. And I back then, I didn't really think of it this way, it's been so long and I've reflected on it, but, um, yeah, she kind of that was kind of the one of the bigger red flags was that she, like, was choosing this guy over her friend that she'd known since she was, like, 5 years old, and and then, after, we get back to school and whatever, and then kind of telling everybody else this story and them kind of not coming to me and asking, like, what's my side of the story? They just took hers and ran with it and then didn't wanna talk to me after that.
Yeah, that's all really clear. Help me out, though. I was so intently listening. And then I think a friend of mine calls it they waffle, where they just kind of their brain. So I think I've missed something. So please
Oh,
let me
yeah, no
know.
problem.
But it sounds like just the initial engaging with this guy, where it sounds like this wasn't somebody that was good for her in the space. Like there were clear signs, it sounds like. Did you feel like her personality was changing when being with this guy, or was it something else?
I think it was something else because I think what she was really I don't think the guy really had anything to do with it at the end of the day.
Mm,
I think that at that point in time, she was really attached to him and stuff, but what she was really upset with me about was that in that competition group, there was a group of girls that she really wanted to be friends with and, like, be a
ah,
part of, because they were kind of seen as more like the cool, like, popular girls, and she didn't like that I was talking to them and hanging out with them, and then because she was with that guy, they didn't really wanna hang out with her, and I think there was some, like, jealousy there. but she didn't
Yeah.
get it wasn't like, "Oh, they don't like her, they like the guy you're hanging they don't like the guy you're hanging out with."
Yeah. Um, I just kind of had that just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. There's like it almost sounds like there's a triangulation happening. Like they may have been open and willing to accept her, but there was this thing happening where there was an undesirable or a perceived undesirable piece of her, the person she was seeing, that really hits that. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
So, like, there's that jealousy piece because of the attention you were receiving from the girls, but it was because of the guy that she was hanging out with. And then there was I heard lying in there. And then the other thing was, it sounds like there was a very clear sense of injustice. There wasn't the opportunity when shared opinions or story was shared with them, they didn't come to the source, the other person in the space. And that's where the betrayal and all the hurt was for you, correct?
Yeah, yeah, where it was really hurtful for me was when, like, no one like, she never and maybe, I'll take my part of the blame for it too, but, like, there was no, like, reflection on what happened between us that occurred. Like, we didn't, like, get back and be like, "Okay, let's, like, reflect on this. Let's talk what happened. Like, let's talk through it." I think she was just so upset with me at that time. Like, I wasn't really that upset with her because it wasn't about her, it was about the guy she was with.
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
have any ill will towards her at all.
Right.
Um, but I think she felt a lot of ill will towards me, and I mean, maybe at that time I could have reached out and tried to figure things out, but I just remember her being so upset, not wanting to talk to me, not wanting to be around me, and then telling everybody, that I'm this awful person, and that was kind of the injustice part for me because I felt like everybody I had basically grown up with just kinda, like, ditched me in a way.
Yeah. And it's interesting with what you shared regarding her and you. There's this sense of fear of like rejection. And
Mhm.
then it's interesting what happens, right? It's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy where you're so afraid of something. I think it is it called Murphy's Law? I think it's Murphy's Law,
Yeah, I think so.
where you're so afraid of something happening that you end up being a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like anything that can go
Mhm.
wrong will go wrong. So I'm going to be abandoned by my closest friends. Well, if you say something like that, our words are powerful. It
Right.
even says that in the Bible, words create life and death, I think is what it says. And
You know it better than I do, so
yes, it's Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And I take it as, what we say, that's a reflection of what's in our heart. And whether we're speaking slander or love is a huge deal. So in this situation, she chose slander, and
Mhm.
we don't need to keep going and beating that dead horse because that in of itself is also a red flag. If someone's talking bad about somebody else to you, they're likely doing it about you. And I think that we can get in almost these cycles where it's really easy to do that even when we're venting and we don't choose to acknowledge, like, hey, I'm angry at this person, or I'm feeling hurt by this person, or I'm feeling rejected, you know? And I think it takes us taking the time to really get to the root. So it sounds like you noticed it really early on, when you were experiencing the hurt, like the depth of the red flags. And there was that really immediate separation.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty immediate, like and at that time too, it was just a lot of things kinda shifting in my life at that time because I had also was, like, going through a breakup myself with my then boyfriend that I had basically had all through high school, and so it was just a lot of, like, people who I was used to having in my life and thought I could, like, trust and would be there for me were all of a sudden not,
Mhm.
and it was very jarring for me to have basically, like, no one.
Mm.
Uh, so, I mean, I had you, but, it was different because we were both doing our own thing and whatnot, but yeah, it was just that summer, it was just kind of me doing my own thing and also kind of going on this journey of, like, finding myself again.
Yes to all of that. And let's kind of move into that space. What was that journey of being by yourself and looking towards forging new connections? What was that like? What made your next connections feel more positive?
I think it was a good time for all of this to happen because I was going off to college, so kind of this it was like I was clean slate, all new people, like, you know, there wasn't any like, I could kinda leave everything that happened behind me. So, I really kind of went into college kind of having more of a sense of who I was, what I was looking for in a friendship, and also just in general in a relationship. And I also through that kind of felt more confident in myself because I was like, "Okay, like, I have a fresh start. This is a new beginning. I'm in a new place, around all new people." And it was actually really good for me to be in that situation because it was all new, and no one knew, like, my history of high school and all of that.
Yeah, fresh start, clean slate.
Yep, mhm.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was kind of, like, perfect timing for all this to happen in a way,
Sure.
because it was like, "Alright, like, like, it's the end of high school anyway, and I'm going off like, we're all going off to do our own thing," so
So I know you mentioned before, I'm going to circle back to this
mm,
discovery period and the opportunity to forge new connections.
yeah, so, I mean, I didn't lose I didn't, like, absolutely have no one. I had you, and I had, a couple other people, um, which was great, like, we're still here chit-chatting. But,
Woot.
but I think, like I'm taking a moment to think back, but yeah, it was like it was different because, like, those people that totally rejected me were probably the people I was most close to at that time. Like, me and you, like, knew each other and we talked and we were, like, kind of in the same circles, but we weren't, like, that close at that time. And, like, same with, like, Ruth and some other people. We talked, we hung out, and, like, I went to Ruth's house and stuff after school and things like that, but it wasn't quite the same connection that I had had with those other people. Yeah, it just wasn't the same depth of, like, connection that I thought I had had. Because I was just going through so much change at that time, and I think that that was the most difficult part, was all of the
Mhm.
change and not having the people in my life that I was so used to having around. And yeah, it was Yeah, it was just a really, like it was just a really profound, like, moment in my life that summer of just kind of being by myself more and kind of figuring out who I really am without, these people I was so used to having around.
Yeah, so you had that real opportunity to discover your authentic self without having influence from it. Really cool.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it was definitely challenging to have to kind of be forced into that, like, "Oh, now you have to do a bunch of self-reflection on yourself," like, like, it wasn't a very gradual thing, it was very, like, abrupt, and so, like, going so after that summer and going into college, it was a brand new slate, but it was also, like it was good in a sense because I had that summer to kind of reflect, figure out who I was. Because in that reflection, kinda helped me gain a little more confidence in myself.
Also, describe what the process was for you mentioned that you discovered things. So what was the process for you?
This was kind of the moment where, when you, like, ask for help, it comes to you. It was very much that kind of a thing for me that summer because I had
Mhm.
kind of found all of these, like, spiritual teachers that I had never heard of before, so I was reading a lot of books back then. I mean, I've always been into books, but that summer was really, like, my year of, like, self-help. More so that summer because it was, like that summer was, like, the year of self-help for me. So I got into that whole world of, like, spirituality, like, self-help, like, really dove into that. I wouldn't say I was doing so much journaling, but more just kind of thinking and just general reflection. More just kind of reading these books that really had a profound, like yeah, just really, like, helped me in a profound way and really helped me kind of realize things about myself and kind of about the situation that I was going through. And
Mhm.
then, thinking back now, I'm kind of like, yeah, I kinda had to go through that, I think, to get to where I am now. Because I think that, like, if that situation hadn't happened, I don't think I would be the person I am right now.
How true is that statement? Our experience shape who we are,
Yeah.
and what we choose to do in those situations really they really shape us and show us who they show us who we really are.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned books that you read. What were your top three from that time?
Oh gosh. I don't even remember. The big one that came out that I remember really had a profound, like, impact on me was Eat, Pray, Love, because that was, like, the year, like, that book came out, everyone was talking about it. That one had a really profound impact on me. Trying to think, I've always been a fan of Gabby Bernstein, I found her at that point in time. I'm trying to remember what the book it was one of her, like, first books. She's written many books since then, but I think it was, like, the Find Your Ing. I'll, like, look it up and let you know the titles so we can put in the show notes, but I don't it was something about, like, find your ing, find your being, something like that. Um, that's also a really good one.
Oh, it's interesting. I did see something. It says add more ing to your life.
Yep, that's what it is. Yep.
That's awesome. So you said eat, pray, love. Add more ing to your life. Was there another one, or were those the two main ones?
Those are the 2 that stick out to me. There's probably other ones, but it's been so long, so I don't
I
remember.
understand. So what were your takeaways from each of these books?
The Eat, Pray, Love one was a good one for me at that time because I was going through my own breakup, and because that book's kind of like she's going through a divorce and all this stuff, and there was something, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something about, like, your soulmates or the, people you're in a relationship with, they're it's not always a forever thing. They're there to teach you something and then they go. Then that's always kinda stuck with me. The Ing book by Gabby Bernstein, I still follow her and love all her work, but what stood out to me was just her message of, like, love and, like, peace within yourself. That's always been something that I've carried.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
So as you move through this time period, you discovered yourself, you redefined, or maybe it was more of you discovered your authentic self. How are you different from who you thought you were?
I think I'm more confident than I used to be, because I think I used to kinda, like, hide behind people.
Mm,
People who are maybe, because I've always been kind of more of like an introverted person. And I think back then, even more so, like I was very unsure of myself. I kind of hid and stayed safe with people that felt comfortable to be around.
mm,
And I
wow.
think, and I think that, losing all of that kind of made me face myself in a way. And it kind of made me, yeah, like you said, discover who I was in a new light, and also gain more confidence in that I can stand alone on my own 2 feet.
Powerful.
Mhm.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge, right? And what a difference going from hiding, unsure, safe, and you found it inside yourself, trust,
Yeah.
and that you're able to stand on your own 2 feet. How did you prove that to yourself? How did you build that confidence?
I mean, it didn't, like, happen immediately. It was definitely something that happened over time, and I think it was just kind of as I was meeting new people, as I was going, to college, this new environment, that I kind of realized that it was safe to be me, be who I wanted to be, and that would attract the right people. Because, like, if you're not who I don't really know how to say it, but, like, if you're not, like, being you, you're not gonna attract the right people that are gonna like you for you. So you may as well just, like, be you, and, if people don't like that, that's okay. Just you'll find your people when you're just focused on being yourself.
Right, and I really like what you said there. You'll find your people when you focus on yourself. I'd like to clarify that when we say in this community that we're focusing on ourself, it's not in the self-centered way of not caring for other people at all. It's creating that balance, establishing that baseline of meeting your basic needs. That way
Mhm.
you can pour out, you can give to other people, and you can't give to others what you don't have. And even when you have gifts and talents to
Mhm.
give to people and you know you're supposed to give those to people through the channels, the avenues, however you want to say it,
Mhm.
you're given or you choose to step into and take on and journey through, walk with, it doesn't help or serve you if you're pouring from an empty cup.
Right.
And I want to know what you have to say, Megan. So please, please, please share.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like, when I say, like, focused on me and, like, being my authentic self. That doesn't mean, like, be a jerk. It's just like someone came to me and said, "I really like pistachios." If I don't like pistachios, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, like, I really like those too," when I don't. I'll be like, "Yeah, pistachios aren't my thing, but, like, if you love them, like, good for you." You know? Like, it's not a it's not me trying to claim that I'm into something or I'm feeling a certain way about a certain thing, or values is a big one too. Like, people have different values and things, and it's not me trying to pretend that I have a certain value or like a certain thing. I'm just gonna be honest about it.
You've abandoned blending in to take on and walk in your own authenticity.
Right. Mhm.
Beautiful. I love that. We talked about your personal journey. So, in regards to looking inward, what steps did you take to build community after you took the time to get real honest with yourself?
Mhm.
You took that time to be real honest with yourself, and you chose to say, okay, I'm ready to build community now. What steps did you take?
I feel like I just didn't really force anything. Like, I just kind of was doing my thing. I joined, like, I was in college at the time. So feel like it's easier to do this kind of stuff in college when you just kind of are with people constantly.
Hmm.
So at that time, like, there was different clubs to join. It just kind of naturally happens when you're around that many people all the time. You kind of start to just meet people, you see people every day, you just kind of like strike up conversations. There wasn't like a certain thing that I necessarily did to like make new friends or anything like that. It just kind of naturally happened. Like, if a connection was there, and then you kind of like cultivate that connection of like getting to know people and stuff like that. I think when you're not in college and you're trying to do this, that's a little more challenging.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's interesting as I was listening to you and you said you didn't really do anything. It just kind of happened naturally. And I agree with part of that statement where you said it naturally happened because you were doing things. You were being available. You were choosing to be open. You chose to go to certain activities, join certain clubs. You chose the classes you chose.
Yes, you're right. I just like didn't do anything. That's true.
And I think the important piece here is that you chose something and you moved into a direction. I think that people in general have a tendency to stop themselves to the point where they're sitting with themselves and they're like, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't.
Right.
And they're focusing too much on what's not there and they're not acknowledging what is there. And they need to change their statement. They need to change it from I can't to how can I? How can I make this happen? And I think on a subconscious level, you did that. And from what I remember of that time, you ended up building that community pretty quickly after you did that groundwork in the summertime.
Yeah, yeah. I think like the biggest thing was that I was feeling more confident in myself. And I think that energy of like me being confident in who I was, that kind of just naturally like draws people in. Like you were just saying, like in this, oh, I can't, like, I'm never gonna meet new friends. You're kind of in this like negative headspace. I think that people feel that energy.
Yeah.
And like when you're in that energy, it kind of like deters people versus if you're feeling confident in yourself, and you're also just, like, letting go of expectations. Like, I didn't have any expectations of, like, "Oh, I'm gonna make all these friends, I'm gonna do all this stuff." I just kinda was like, "I'm just gonna let go, I'm gonna just see what happens. I'm gonna feel confident in myself," and it's that moment of just, like, letting go of the expectation is when things start to happen.
Yeah. And also being in that space of being fully self-expressed,
Yeah.
choosing to be the authentic being that you are. And I think that's powerful. I feel like there's a lot of times when we get into the negative mindset, we don't even realize it. We're shutting ourselves down. We're boxing ourselves in, if you will, to not experiencing life
Yeah.
because there's the closedness.
Mhm.
Um, so I think you already answered this question. How has building community been different than in the past? It sounds like you've been just authentically who you are, not having expectations, and being open and discovering and experiencing life.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's kind of the trick to it is, like, just going in, not having any expectations of yourself or the other person.
Mhm.
And I find when you just kinda let things kinda go, then they'll kind of just grow naturally. Like, if you have a connection with somebody and you feel it, then that'll kind of grow as you, like, continue to get to know that person. It's almost kinda like, if you plant the seed and you continue to water, eventually it grows. I think it's just, like, having the patience, having the, like, "Okay, I'm not expecting anything. I'm just gonna see what happens," is when things take off.
Yeah, I would totally agree. What types of people should you have in your corner? Should everyone be just like you?
No.
What? Why not?
I feel like
Tell me more.
I feel like, I feel like that would be so boring if, like, everybody in my circle was just like me. Like, that would just be so boring. Like, I like getting to meet different kinds of people of all different, like, walks of life because I just find that interesting. And so, like, I don't know, I wouldn't want to be just around people who are just like me because 'cause I'd probably get really bored.
I think some of the most valuable advice I've read, heard from multiple sources, I don't think it's just one. There's 5 people, or really rather 5 different types of people you need to it's more aimed towards your business. However, I feel like it's applicable in your life just as a human being, because even if you're not choosing to go into a business such as like what you're doing with your art, I did not forget, friends, we are going to talk about her art a little bit too, but there's really 5 types of people that you want in your corner, not just as a business person, but as someone who is in the business of living, is how I'll say it. You're choosing to do things that bring you joy, make you happy, they challenge you. You're going to need these 5 different people, and I'll share what I feel is necessary. And please chime in, Megan, at any time.
Mhm.
The co achiever, this is somebody who shares your values and has similar goals. This is essential if you're in the same kind of field of business or just in life, having that person who wants to see you win,
Yeah.
can walk with you and talk with you about what's going on in that journey.
Mhm.
The cheerleader, the person that's always going to think everything you do is great. Now, I don't mean super fake. You'd be like, oh, that's fantastic all the time. Making sure that you do have someone that is positive and they're supportive always. The mentor is somebody who guides you into, especially on what to do and what common mistakes to avoid, and supporting you to move you forward. I like this one, and I feel like in the past this has challenged me, and I feel as though I've grown a lot in the last few years with this one is the accountability buddy. This is someone who holds you responsible
Yeah.
for your goals and checks on your progress. So for
Mhm.
example, you're a part of a community, right? With your art stuff.
Mhm. Yes, I am. Yeah.
So you have like this group of people that you get to report to and share what you're doing, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, like, we have, like, monthly calls and, yeah, we talk about our art and yeah, totally, it's totally like an accountability group for
That's so
sure.
cool. Have a coach as well that I use for that. And then the last person they say you should have is the divergent. So someone who isn't afraid to challenge your thinking and provide honest feedback. So these are the person who will think outside of your self-created box. So these are the people that when you think, "Oh, this is so stupid," they're gonna be like, "What makes you think it's stupid? What makes you think it's dumb?" And they're gonna like push you, and I love that. And
Yeah.
the biggest key, I think, is making sure that you're not just taking up space and taking from these individuals, that you're giving back to them. Obviously, relationships are two-way street for sure.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing I'd like to touch on, we've touched on it pieces, the confidence connection, and also tying this into the support of confidence building and the importance of finding your tribe and friendship. That's like a big thing to say. Let's condense that. I'm like all the things I want to say. This is why we have a podcast so we can take our time and continue on.
Yeah.
Um, this thing called the confidence connection, we talked about it in prep time. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about what this means for you. What could it mean for our listeners?
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to, like, being confident in yourself, because everything is energy, and so if you're not feeling good about yourself or what you're doing or who you're being, people are gonna pick up on that. And you may think that you can put on, like, a smile and keep going and, like, hide it all down, but I think people are a lot more perceptive of energy than I think some of us even realize.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a unspoken, innate thing that we have. Have you ever been in a space with somebody where you couldn't put your finger on it, but you just knew something about them was off?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think we all kinda have it's almost kinda like that. I don't know, it's like that creepy not that it's, like, creepy, I'm just using this as an example, but it's like, when it's like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up or you kinda get, like, creeped out by something, like that kind of a feeling almost.
Right. And I think too, as well, when we think about dating, that there's this idea that you hear we grew up with, oh, you should have butterflies in your tummy when you talk to this guy. And actually that's the opposite thing, is that not continue you should not pass go and collect $200 because your body's actually telling you, no, this is not a good thing. You want to connect and be with somebody that makes you feel at peace and safe.
Yeah. But also, like, I think it's so individual too, like, my senses in my body might be different than yours. So if somebody does, like, get the butterflies and stuff, maybe to them that's, like, a sign that it's good. Like, I don't wanna, like, all our bodies kind of experience feeling differently. Like, it's similar, but, everybody kind of feels different. So maybe kinda take some time to, like, reflect in that of, like, what actually feels safe in my body and what doesn't. Because I think so much we just kind of assume, or maybe it's not what you assumed.
Interesting. And the whole butterflies in the stomach could be like a normal idiom for like feeling nervous or anxious. And for some,
Right.
it could be considered a normal physical response to stress or excitement. And I don't know. I guess there's a part of me that wonders because I've heard on different platforms before that it's not necessarily um, a good thing. Because I think that sometimes people maybe feel like a nervousness or maybe an uneasiness. So not necessarily positive. Like you were mentioning,
Right.
there could be opportunities for positive,
Yeah.
but it might not be positive. And I guess I initially associate it with the red flags we may be ignoring,
Yeah, for sure.
kind of like what we were talking about earlier. And I know it's a little bit different, so I'm kind of like, ooh, over here. Anyway, keep going. This is good.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I don't think we should just assume like, for example, like butterflies in the stomach is a good thing. Maybe it is like a warning, but also like be curious about it. Like really
Yeah,
ask yourself like, why am I feeling like this right now? Is it that I'm excited? And if it is, great. Or is it like I'm uneasy about this person? Then maybe
I
let's look.
love that. That's great. Identifying the root.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Mhm.
And our bodies tell us so much, whether we want to acknowledge it or not.
Right.
Beautiful. Was there anything else you wanted to share regarding all of that?
Oh gosh. I don't know, I feel like we touched on everything.
The last question I have that's related to this whole thing with the friendship thing, all of that stuff. What advice would you invite our listeners to consider their friend had only self-serving intentions, whether it's something they were aware of or not, like with your situation?
Yeah, I think I would tell people like I think the most important thing is like to do some self-reflection and decide, depending on the relationship, if you're able to talk to that person or not, maybe try to talk it through. But I think before you even try doing that, it's all about self-reflection and what do you want? Like, do you want to continue this friendship? Do you want to continue this relationship? Does it still feel good you know, to be connected to this person? Because I think that self-reflection will determine your actions moving forward. And I think sometimes we don't take the time to really self-reflect and ask, what do we want in a situation? We just kind of are like, oh, well, this is like what's expected of me, or this is what's expected in this situation, and not really asking ourselves, what do we really want?
Yeah, that's powerful. And I really like what you had to say of putting aside what may be the status quo or the more accepted opinion that people would want. Like if you've had friends for so long, of like, oh, well, you've known them for so long. And sometimes people change and they move on or
Yeah.
choose to shift and pivot. And there's nothing wrong with that. Cheer them on,
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
encourage them to be their best selves.
Mhm.
Oh, it's all really good stuff. If I were to offer something, I think my biggest thing is if there is anything that you haven't shared with the person and you've chosen to discuss with others, and like what you shared, trash talk, as you put it,
Yeah.
you chose to trash talk the other person and you haven't tried to have a conversation with them because you're afraid of what they might say if you're giving them harsh feedback or that you
Mhm.
don't want to. If you feel like they had value to you or you feel like it would make the difference for you, talk to that person. And if you don't feel it's right for you, it's okay to let them go. You can write them a letter and address it to them and not necessarily send it. What I'm trying to say here is that there's multiple ways to set yourself free from
Mhm.
previous connections. You can choose to repair it or release it, and both are right. You get to ask yourself what is the way you should go. And if you're a spiritual person or a God person, ask God. He'll show you. That would be my thoughts regarding it. So before we sign off and depart from this lovely podcast, a few closing things I'd like to invite our listeners to do. I invite you to rewind back a few minutes to what Megan was saying when she gave you the advice, her suggestions. I'd like you to write those down and really reflect on them for yourself. I'd also like for you to write down 3 people in a notebook or on a sheet of paper, whatever works for you. People that were in your life, who you had connection with, and maybe no longer have a connection with, or as close as one. And ask yourself whether or not you'd like that connection or not. And also, regardless of what your answer is, write that person a letter. You don't have to send it to them or anything like that. Just take the time and tell that person how you feel, and what you do with it is your choice. You can choose to keep it, you can choose to burn it, or if you feel led and it makes sense for your situation, you can give it to that person. That's what I would say. Off with the heavy stuff. That was really deep, I feel. I would just invite you guys check out Megan's art. Her work is amazing.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Her links should be, I think I can do that on here. Her links should be in the um, description, and if not, it'll probably be an Instagram post. Um, Megan, thank you so much for choosing to be here with us and being an amazing friend for all these years and sharing your heart with us.
Yeah,
It,
no problem. It was fun to be here.
yes, it takes courage and tenacity and authenticity and vulnerability to just be here. So I really appreciate you taking the time and being vulnerable with us.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. So, everyone, thank you so much for choosing to be here. You could be anywhere and you chose to be here. This is Lily with the Affirming Self podcast. Wherever you are, whether it's morning, noon, or night, have a wonderful day.